On March 18, 1959, the United States Congress passed the Hawaii Admission Act, dissolving the territory of Hawaii and granting Hawaii statehood. The Republic of Hawaii was annexed by the US on August 12, 1898, and conversations about Hawaii's statehood became a divisive topic. So was annexing Hawaii, but we've already crossed that bridge. Regardless, 94% of Hawaiian residents voted in favor, and the state of Hawaii was established on August 21, 1959. Now the 50th state, Hawaii would gain a number of benefits for being a part of the Union, one of which was an increase in Hawaii's ever-growing tourism. While tourism was always a part of Hawaii's economy, after becoming a place where any of the other 49 states could travel to, the region exploded with a new wave of tourism. Tourism today takes up a quarter of the state's economy, and is overall a net positive on the business and job side of things. So why is tourism so divisive? This will be the part where I go in detail about why and list the reasons, but doing that on its own is not fun. So instead, let's pivot to one specific tourist. A man who visited Kauai for research. A man named Chris Sanders. For those who don't know, Lilo and Stitch is a 2-on-2 animated— wait, why am I talking to you? Between the 2025 live-action remake making too much money and the everlasting popularity of Stitch on his own, it's undeniable that most people know about Lilo and Stitch. And while yes, there are works analyzing the movie's themes about Hawaiian culture, they always tend to focus on the bigger picture, analyzing everything the film has to offer. And while those topics are fascinating, I'm not trying to downplay anything, I do believe having one big video or one big article tends to leave much to be desired. By having a singular video focused on one specific aspect, we'll be able to focus more on what the movie has to say about this specific theme, instead of worrying about all of them. It keeps us focused. And it's good, because this movie does a deceptively good job at conveying what Native Hawaiians think of tourism, and we can see that off the bat with... Nani represents a Hawaiian being employed in the tourist industry. All the jobs she tries to apply for, apart from, I guess, the fruit stand and the last one, are in some ways connected to tourism. She initially works at what she dubs a—
get this stupid, fakey luau anyway.
The luau is themed around what tourists believe Hawaiian culture is like, instead of what the culture actually is, giving off an idealized appearance. Afterwards, when she's let go, she applies to other jobs with little to no luck. When she applies for Coffee Hut, for example, we see how the manager is hesitant due to the tourist season ending.
I wish I could, Nani, but I just hired Teddy and the tourist season ended.
Implying that she really can't afford another employee, which tends to spotlight the damaging effects tourism has on Hawaii. Tourism accounts for 10% of the global economy, while in Hawaii alone it takes up a quarter of theirs.
In 21st century mass tourism, corporations continue to extract profits while locals are left with low-paying jobs, resource strain, price inflation, environmental degradation, and a reduced quality of life. Danny, with love.
This is backed up in the film with how Nani is forced to juggle maintaining her job while also caring after Lilo. Throw Stitch into a mix, and it's lucky she even has a house. Too soon? Speaking of Stitch... Stitch represents a tourist, someone unfamiliar with the customs and traditions of wherever they're touring to, and makes a fool out of himself. When he lands in Hawaii, he has these expectations of what awaits him, only for those to be subverted. Instead of large cities he can conquer, it's small local towns all surrounded by massive bodies of water preventing his escape. When trying to fit in and be a model citizen, he tries too hard and can't help but be a wreck, which embarrasses Nani and even Lilo. It's not until he realizes the value in Ohana and having a family is when he finally belongs and goes from a tourist to a Hawaiian. This might come off as a stretch, and I'll admit, I don't believe this is what the writers intended, but while rewatching the film for this video, I couldn't help but notice Stitch works amazingly as a self-insert for tourist. It's such a fascinating way to interpret his character, and I don't think I've seen many others come to this conclusion. A tourist coming to a place he doesn't understand, tries to fit in but comes across as insincere, and over the course of the film learns how to adapt and belong. Not in an artificial way, but in a way that signals he's joined Lilo's Ohana. Speaking of... Lilo represents a native who is made a spectacle by just living her life. Obviously, you can't talk about this aspect without bringing up her interest in photography, specifically photographing tourists. It's an inversion of the tourist gaze, and I really wish I could reword the following in a better way, but the quote does its job so well that I'm just gonna get someone else to quote it directly.
Instead of Lilo becoming the subject of scrutiny and outside observation, she literally turns the camera onto the people doing the observing. Rather than being a side character in a white person's journey, Lilo has the agency to not only be the protagonist of her story, but to turn the tables on the typical white narrative of Hawaii by taking pictures of the white tourists that surround her. They're the ones out of place on her island. They're the ones that should be gawked at. Emma Casley.
Besides this runner, there really isn't too much examples of Lilo being gawked at. However, in a deleted scene that didn't make it into the final film, we see Lilo and Stitch walking around her town, as tourists ask her which way to the beach is. They very much come across as obnoxious, insincere, and arrogant.
Hey, speak English? Which way to the beach?
Lilo gives wrong directions to each tourist. She then asks Lonnie if they're still testing the sirens, which gives her an opportunity to warn the tourist. While she's talking to them, they very clearly only see her as an oddity to take pictures of and nothing more.
Oh look, a real native! Isn't that cute?
Which makes the following scene even more hilarious.
Tourists, prepare to die! Huh?
If you lived here, you'd understand.
This scene is a perfect encapsulation of how it feels to be a native living in a place overrun by people who see you as an attraction rather than a person. And unlike the other examples, which are more subtle, this scene is way more in your face and direct about tourism and its effects on natives. Which begs the question, why was it cut? Surely it can't be because the company producing the film has a history of creating attractions worldwide which directly profits from tourism. Know that said company is in the business of profits first, and anything too controversial could lead to such a travesty. It's no stranger that the Walt Disney Company has a huge stake in tourism. Even before they went worldwide, they were facing backlash with building theme parks in the States. Today, Disney operates 7 theme parks, 5 of which are countries known for being tourist destinations. Disney also has invested interest in profiting off of Lilo and Stitch. Opening their own Hawaiian resorts in 2011 is already a sign of this, but the most egregious form this takes is in the live-action remake. From changing the white guy to be a native Hawaiian, to the film boasting about this random hotel by having Lilo run around to bask in all the wonders it has to offer, the 2025 remake evidently shifts even further away from the critical messaging of the original. I wonder why they would do that! Stitch at this point is a brand. A brand to sell merchandise. A brand to influence you to stay at whatever Hawaiian attraction they have based in Indonesia. What? Half of the marketing encourages you to be a tourist. You've got to be kidding me. The remake opts to sanitize and erase the already pretty minor jabs at tourism, and what you're left with is a film that looks more faithful to Hawaiian culture, but is nothing but smoke and mirrors. In trying to appear like they've done their research and are trying to rectify any issues with a 23-year-old film, they are ironically more insensitive to Hawaiian culture than the original. Overall, Lilo and Stitch does a masterful job at portraying the struggles of Hawaiians under late-stage capitalism in nuanced ways that you probably wouldn't even pick up on during your first viewing. Heck, maybe your 20th. I certainly didn't as a kid, and I like that about this. It was able to subtly critique tourism in a way that your mind would latch onto and would stick for years to come, despite you not even realizing. Despite me believing that the deleted scene was amazing, I think it's also amazing how masterful the film was able to include these themes without having it overtake the core message of the film. In fact, it assists the film more than anything. Not many films can have this much nuance crammed in an hour and 25 minutes. Some can't master this with over 8 hours of screen time. So, could you tell this was a project?